Hello and welcome back to the second video of the evening, showing the second deck that I bought in with my birthday money, my birthday haul, belated birthday haul. And the second deck that we're looking at is Kabbalah, the Tree of Life Oracle. And it says here, Sacred Wisdom to Enrich Your Life. And it's by Cherry Gilchrist. It comes in this solid box that has a little handle here for you to use that pull out, and it has a segment here, a little tray in where the cards sit and the book sits on the top. So let's see what the blurb says on the back. The oracle you are now holding is based on ancient Kabbalistic map of creation and dates back at least 1,000 years in the Jewish mystery tradition. The Tree of Life is a sacred symbol in many cultures of the world, but here it is used as a path to knowledge, linking the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet with the 22 paths of the Tree of Life and the astrological houses. Each resulting word forms a rich and powerful wheel symbol that reflects a segment of the tree, depicted on the cards in the oracle deck. Lay the cards on the reading sheet in the zigzag line of creation and consult the guidebook to receive guidance on any life issues. Both the oracle and the tree are highly structured, and from this framework of harmony comes wisdom that you will value forever. The pack contains a deck of 57 symbolic cards, a reading sheet showing card positions, and a 144-page illustrated guidebook. And it tells us that Cherry Gilchrist was one of the 4 original Kabbalists who worked on the original Galgal oracle, on which the Tree of Life oracle is based. Cherry is the author of books whose themes range from alchemy to feminine archetypes, divination and Russian mythology. She has studied the Western Kabbalistic tradition since her early 20s. Her interests in ancient cultures has taken her from Siberia to Easter Island and along the Silk Road. Find her at www.cherrygilchrist.co.uk, and this is produced by Edison Books, published by Edison Books. So let's have a look what exactly is in the box. So first of all, it mentions a 144-page book, and this is the book that we'll peep into in just a minute. It also tells us about a reading sheet. Now, this is the reading sheet, and I'll have to hold it back here so that you can see the size of it. It's a paper sheet that gives you the layout of how you read this particular deck. Each of these symbols is a section of the Tree of Life, and each of these would appear, as wheels in this oracle deck. Now, I don't think that I would be able to actually read any of this intuitively. I have looked through the cards and you'll see why in a minute, but it's not that I won't be able to read it intuitively. It's a case of that there's a specific meaning for everything, and it's a little bit as if you're going to read the I Ching, unless you know every single symbol and have absolutely been able to absorb every little bit of information. There's so much information out there. You're not going to be able to sort of go, oh right, I know what this is. You have a book like a Bible with that you refer to each of the symbols. With this, I think it's a similar thing. The book is really informative, and it is set out so that you can lay out your cards and then refer to each card. And on the inside cover, we have the numbers of the cards, the numbers of the path in order of the lightning flash. The lightning flash is the pattern that is made through the Tree of Life in order as the cards are read. It's in a sort of zigzaggy pattern and comes to a point down at the bottom. We then have the Hebrew letters of their alphabets and of the Hebrew letters and their name. And then we have a list here that gives us the root names of the letters on the path and their meaning. There they are here. Okay. Inside the back, it then gives us the links to how they're linked in, the planets, the symbols, the planet name, the astrological symbol and the astrological sign. Okay, so you have all that, that's like quick reference guides for you. The book then opens up, we have our introductory page with all the sort of legalese stuff there. Then we have our contents page. Yep, our contents page. So there's an introduction, then it tells us about the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life. Then we talk about the origins of the oracle. Then on page 14 we look at the cards, it tells about the cards. On page 15 it tells us about the wheels. And then it goes on to look at every single card. Then on page 143, reading the cards. Then the Tree of Life and the reading sheet, and how to lay out a reading, sample readings and acknowledgements. So in the introduction, there you go, there's the Tree of Life. You can see the Hebrew symbols in red. You can also see the planet signs, the astrological signs, and then you can also see the actual names of each of the points here on the Tree of Life. Okay, there we go. So, introduction. An oracle provides a way to consult a source of wisdom and knowledge. It mediates for us between higher and lower worlds, and between our personal lives and a greater living presence in the universe. This particular oracle is designed not so much to give us all the answers, but to help us to ask the right questions, to glimpse possibilities, and to understand how life may be unfolding. The oracle is based on the Kabbalah and its central symbol, the Tree of Life. The Kabbalistic Tree of Life is a stylized version of the Tree of Life found in practically every culture, from motifs woven into original Oriental rugs to Native American totem poles and tales of Norse mythology. Just as the oracle acts as a channel mediating between the worlds, so the Tree of Life is also a crystalline ladder which spans both the material and spiritual levels of existence. Seekers and sages through the centuries have devised such symbols to help us to understand the connection between the sacred and the everyday practice. So that's just a couple of little paragraphs there, and it goes on to give us a more in-depth introduction. So I'm just going to go to the cards. It gives us a little story about each of the cards, and then we get to the actual named cards. Okay, so let's have a look at the cards first before we continue referring to the book. On the back of the cards, the backs of the cards look like that. This again, it's just a sheen rather than a gloss on the cards, and the cards are quite small, quite the opposite to the previous deck we looked at. So here we have a traditional standard sized tarot card, and here this is the size of the Kabbalah Tree of Life Oracle card. There you go, you can see that's what it looks like. That's how much smaller it is. Okay, so I'm going to just page through these because we've got there's a number of them that are all numbered number 1. Okay, so there's 4 of them marked number 1. So this is the Beloved, the Servant, the Seed, I do apologise, and the Head. Then we have 4 cards that are numbered 2. Now I don't know yet, but I'm wondering if the colours will link up with the elements as well, which we will find out about later, because we have the Sleeper, which is green, the Drunkard, blue, Thirst, which is like a reddy orange, and then the Uprooted. The next 4 we have, these are cards number 3, the Actor, the coward, the observer, and the moment. Cards number 4 are the locksmith, the eater, the witness, and the wanderer. Card number 5, we have the skeleton, the sluggard, the dancer, and the advisor. Cards number 6, Pandora's box, applause, the edge, and the surgeon. Cards number 7 are the heart, the warrior, the victor, and the treasury. Cards number 8 are the marker, the Thor, the test, and the sign. Cards number 9, the disciple, the Passover, the flag, and the court. Cards number 10, the benefactor, agitation, the martyr, and the presence. Card number 11, are the return, the cauldron, man of blood, and the veil. Number 12, the gambler, concern, pride, and the society. Cards number 13 are the tempter, the sorrow, the audience, and the myth. Card number 14 are the covering, the well, the point, and casualty. And then we have a card that has just Hebrew symbols on it. Okay, so whether we need to have a look at what's on this or this has a specific meaning, I'm not sure, but we will find out. So those are the cards in this deck. So you can see why it would be very difficult to actually even consider reading these intuitively, because there's not, unless you are absolutely familiar with the Tree of Life, that you can spot every section of it, you can identify where it is on the tree, you know each of the Hebrew symbols, you know the planets, the everything. Unless you know them, it's not going to be something that will be very easily read. So if we were to look at number 1, wheel 1, which is sense, okay, sorry, number 1, was it sense? It was, wasn't it? So right, this card here, okay, this is the only wheel which has sense. It is the center. The physical world is at the first and most obvious. is at the first sight the most obvious, but it is really the most mysterious and difficult to understand. What is matter? Bodies that are apparently solid reveal hidden universes, atoms, genes, molecules, subatomic particles. The further we go, the more our normal notion of time, space and matter disappear. The unknown awaits us when we pass through the gates of matter. Is our material world the same as it is for a bee, a bird or a worm? In Kabbalah, the lowest sephira of Malkut is known as the sacred garden. It is the feminine spirit and the manifestation of the divine to our senses. These cards refer to a sensory input and how we process it, and also to the image of the garden with its fertile soil and new growth. Wow. So there are 4 suits of 14 cards in the pack. Each card is a wheel based on a segment of the Tree of Life. These wheels can easily be related to the tree, although their shape has been adapted. Every wheel comes in 4 different aspects, each with a different name, gleaned from the Hebrew letter combinations on their relevant paths. And so each card aspect is assigned to one of the 4 elements: earth, water, fire and air. These elements are similar to those in astrology, where earth signifies the practical material level, water is the emotional and changeable, fire is creative and energizing, and air is intellectual and abstract. They can also be looked at in connection with the 4 worlds on the Tree of Life, described briefly on page 10. There is also a blank card whose task is to stop the reading if it is inappropriate to continue. You can find out more about this on page 139. In the final section of the book, you will also find complete instructions for laying out and reading the cards with the help of the reading sheet included in the pack. You may wish to keep a record of your readings so that you can refer back to them at a later date, or see how the depth of insight can increase as you become more familiar with using the oracle. So this section takes you through the cards one by one and can be used for referencing during a reading. It begins with an introduction to the 14 wheels. So we've had a look at the different wheels. So there's 14 wheels and there's 4 cards within each of the sets. Okay. So interpretations are life tasks and possible meanings. Okay. So let's have a look at the servant. So the servant is the one that I have just held up, okay, and number 1 is all 4 of those cards that I shown you were number 1 earlier on. So this first one is the servant. So there's the oracle tells us about the card, there's a commentary, and then there's an interpretation. So the servant: to make a gift of your life is the noblest of actions, but to truly give requires more than nobility. If you set aside will and responsibility and offer yourself unconditionally, you are indulging yourself on a whim. Life itself demands discrimination. Does not the body reject invasion, repelling all other bodies foreign to it? Therefore, every act of giving must be in accordance with the nature of life. A sacrifice will only be of benefit if both the motives and the possible consequences are understood. Making the ultimate sacrifice, giving yourself to that which is truly beloved, must be done without self-indulgence. Giving without proper thought is the action of a spoilt child. It is said that all creation is held in a place by love, and if that love were withdrawn, everything would disappear. Your body represents your connection with life. You inhabit it. You can choose whether to look after it or to damage it, but you cannot create it. So your first commitment is to remember that the body is an expression of the fundamental creative impulse, a crystallized material form which gives us identity. Respect for this will go a long way towards relieving anxiety without our appearance and physique, and may also help us come to terms with illness. If the body is formed from love, we have a responsibility to use it in the service to love and life. There are many ways in which this is done: in conceiving and bearing a child, in physical work, and in literally lending a hand to others in need. We also give the body in physical love, not only sexually but through the art of touch, massage and healing. But this love is not sentimental. As the oracle says, it does not mean thoughtless sacrifice. This would be a waste, leading to needless destruction and perhaps creating a burden for others. Okay. We need to look after our bodies too, because neglecting them is also a kind of indulgent self-sacrifice, but nor does it mean an excess of self-love. Constant preening and mirror gazing blocks the flow of energy. Physical life is for sharing, but for sharing with discrimination. As the oracle says, the body needs to maintain its boundaries and its defense systems in order to stay healthy. Interpretations, life tasks. Do you pay enough attention to the physical world? Perhaps you need to strike up a dialogue with your body and your senses. Listen to what they are telling you, but choose your course of action wisely with love. Possible meanings: pregnancy, a renewal of physical energy, cultivation of beauty, treatment for ailments, gardening, tending the environment, a lucky win or bonus, a loved one, a meeting after a long absence. This is actually, sorry, I just read the beloved, not the servant, so, oh my God. So, yeah, so that is beloved, not servant, which is another number one. The beloved, it was that one I've just read to you, which in all honesty would look pretty similar. Okay, so it's that one I've just read. So that's how it's laid out. It's laid out where you have the picture of the card, you have what the oracle says, you have the commentary about it, and then it gives you possible interpretations. So you can see there's a huge amount to each card, and the fact that 4 cards make one part. So the first part of the wheel part number 1 has 4 cards to it, number 2 has 4 cards to it, and it shows you, see, here are 1, 2, 3, 4. That's wheel number 1, and those are the 4 parts. Okay, wheel number 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see how it moves around and how it changes. It's not going to be easy to do this. This is going to be something of a challenge. Again, a bit like the Anubis oracle, it is a completely different system to what I would be used to myself. It's very deep. It is going to be, like I say, a challenge. I don't see it going to be an easy read or an easy task to learn. You've got to learn about the houses and their meanings. So if you're going to look at using the reading sheet, okay, you lay them out, and each house you lay them under has a meaning. So you're going to have to know the meaning of the position on the tree of life. You're then going to have to know the meaning of all the symbols, the Hebrew alphabet, the planets, the astrological symbols. You're going to have to know the meaning of the actual card. It's going to be a gargantuan task. It's not something that's going to come to me overnight, and I will be relying heavily on the book. So I'm hoping that I can get into it. It's not what I was expecting, but it's actually more of a surprise than disappointment, a pleasant surprise, because it's something to get my teeth into, and I'm all for that, because like I say, divination, any form of card reading, it's a continual process of learning, and it's okay to stick to one system. It's okay to learn many other systems. So a lot of decks here to have would be RWS. I have a couple of Thoth, and I'm sort of okay with that. I'm okay with Marseille. RWS is my strong point. I've got loads of different oracle cards, and the oracle cards I usually have something like angelic angel cards, or wise sort of sayings. These newer ones, the Anubis and the Kabbalah, are very much systems, as opposed to just picking a card and either intuitively reading it or reading it from the meaning that comes on the card, or linking both intuition and interpretation that comes on the card. This is an actual system to learn. So, as I say, we have the different houses. Okay, we have, there's a list here as to what it says. So for instance, if we're looking at here, immediate present, appearances, initiatives, energy, okay, then you'll have the card that sits on there. So all these little bits here all mean something, and then the card on top of that. So it's going to be rather wow. So that is the Kabbalah Oracle, Tree of Life Oracle. I'm actually looking forward to having a go at this. I don't know how I'm going to use it, when I'm going to use it. It's going to be a lot of practice on myself first, because I can't see me reading for anybody with this deck anytime soon. But it's one to have in the collection to dip into now and again when I've got extra time and start making notes. I think there will be a lot of note taking with that particular deck. So it's going to be more of a project, a task, and a learning curve for me, as opposed to just delving into a deck and enjoying reading for it for the sake of reading. This is going to be something, you know, learning for the sake of learning, and it'll also help me understand Kabbalah a lot more. So I'm just going to pop away this deck. This is the deck I was using to measure up the size of the cards, the Cosmic Cycles Tarot deck, which is a really nice deck. I've done a walkthrough of this deck before. So folks, I'm going to leave you with that information. There's an awful lot in that now. It's going to be something of a challenge, that's for certain. I will pop on sometime in the future. It'll probably be 10 years from now to let you know how I've actually got on with it. So listen folks, take care. I hope you've enjoyed this walkthrough and this chat about the deck and my first impressions of it. Wishing you all the best. Have a lovely evening, and I hope life is treating you well wherever you are. Good night.